Hi, welcome to Buff Chef. Today I've got a whole pork loin, okay? And I purchased this for about $15 at my local members only supermarket. Now the nice thing about buying meat this way is that you can save a lot of money, and you're also going to get a lot better cut of meat because you can actually decide your own thickness and things of that nature, okay? Now the nice thing about a loin is you got several different cuts of meat here. On the lower end of this, what we have is a small rib roast, okay? It's about 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches of rib roast. In the upper end, we have a loin roast, okay? And everything in between here is actually just chops. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut these about a ½ an inch thick. You can always go thicker or thinner depending on what your tastes are, okay? So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is begin cutting this, and I'm gonna show you how it's done. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to separate the meats. So I'm going to go about, so let's say 6 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and begin my cut. Now this is I'm actually cutting off the loin roast right here, okay? And you can do all kinds of things with this, you know, after you've cut everything up and you've decided, you know, what kind of meat you want and what kind of dishes that you want to prepare, of course. Now the second thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take about, again, 6 inches or so, maybe a little bit more than that, and I'm going to cut off our rib roast, okay? Just like so. Excellent. Now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of this and I'm going to make basically pork chops. What they are is loin chops, okay? And I'm going to make mine, I think about 1 inch of thickness. It's what I prefer. You can always go thicker, thinner, whichever you prefer. But let's go ahead and do 1 inch. And I'm just going to go ahead. It cuts very easy if you have a sharp knife. Unfortunately, I grew up in a home that was, well, sharp knife challenged. I don't think we owned one. I certainly hope that I didn't have anything to do with that. Here we go. Look at that. Fantastic. Cuts very easy with a sharp knife, just like that. I think I'm going to thin them out a little bit because 1 inch is getting a little on the thick side. Almost there. And again, this is so quick to do. It's so easy. You know, and you pay the butcher some pretty big dollars to do this kind of thing for you. And you can save so much money. Again, this whole thing was $15, and that's pretty hard to beat. It really is. Almost there. I cut the last couple a little bit thinner so I can make 3 instead of 2. Go. Just like that. That's really easy. So, what we've got some big thick chops right here that we can stuff if we like, okay? We've also got some thinner chops. Of course, they're going to cook a little bit faster. I've got a nice rib roast right here that I can stuff. It's very, very tender. And I also have a loin roast that's a little bit heavier. You can also stuff this. You can crock pot this. In fact, crock potting is probably the way to go with this guy. And we'll get into that later. Look at that cut of meat. Is that pretty or what? Okay. I've just shown you how to cut this up. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do some cooking on some of this stuff. I'm going to show you a couple of recipes. Okay, I have a pork rib roast right here that I just cut fresh. And what I'm going to do, this weighs a couple pounds, something like that. I also took a Granny Smith's green apple and I cut about half of that, okay? Cut it into very thin strips, something 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, something like that. You want it to be fairly thin. I also have about 1/4 cup or so of, I use natural applesauce. You can use whatever kind you like. It's very low in calorie. And in this one I have a mixture of, I've got 2 tablespoons of Splenda and about a teaspoon, a little bit more, a heaping teaspoon, let's say, of cinnamon, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff this roast with this, and we're going to toss this thing in the oven for probably about 1 hour to 2 hours, something like that. You'll just kind of have to guess, take a look at that kind of thing as it's cooking. All right. This is going to be fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the roast, I'm going to turn it up on its end, and I'm just going to cut into it about halfway, just like so. Okay, we're going to go ahead and cut into this. Again, I'm not going to cut all the way through it, but I am going to cut it about 50% in half, something like that. If you can see what I'm talking about right there, laid it open very nicely. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my applesauce, and I'm going to take my Splenda, and I'm going to pour about, well, let's just use the whole container of the Splenda mixture, And we're going to whip that, beat that into our applesauce just a little bit. You'll see it kind of firm up. You notice? Oh, that smells good. I want to make sure you get it really blended up well in there, okay? Now, oh, that's awesome. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spoon some of this in. A couple spoonfuls will do at first. Okay, just like that. Then I'm going to lay my apples in there. It doesn't have to be in any kind of specific order, anything like that. Just, you know, put them in there to where they're not going to fall out. Just like so. Awesome. Just like that. In fact, I'm not even going to use the entire apple because it is a little bit smaller roast than I usually cook. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over just like this onto its back. Okay. Make sure it's in there good. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take some of our applesauce and we're just going to kind of spread it over the top a little bit. Just kind of paint it on there. Just like that. We'll probably end up using the whole thing. Very good. Oh yeah, that's going to be wonderful. Make sure it drips all over the exposed areas of the meat, just like that. Perfect. Excellent. Now, the best thing to do with this to cook is you want to go ahead and take the smaller the container, the better. You really don't want to put a small roast in a huge container if you can avoid doing that. So I have a very small container here with a lid, with a glass lid. That's also very important. It's not a necessity, but it's really something that's very, very nice to have. So we're going to go ahead and toss our meat in there like so. I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a cover. And off to the oven we go. Okay, I've taken my stuffed rib roast, it's pork rib roast, and I've gone ahead and I put it in my container. I've got a cover on there. I preheated my oven to about 350 degrees. This is going to cook about an hour and a half to 2 hours, something like that. I would check it in about an hour just to make sure that, you know, it's doing the right things and it's not overcooking or undercooking, that kind of thing. And again, with ovens, you always have to, every oven is different. Every place you go, everywhere you live, so you always have to kind of get a good feel for your oven. So I'm going to stick this in the oven and I'll be back in a couple of hours. Hi. Okay, I've had my meat in the oven for about an hour and a half. I went ahead and I've taken it out. That smells fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of there. Put it on a plate. Oh man, look at that. That is just absolutely wonderful. Smells fabulous. Very low in calories, very high in protein. Wonderful. Okay, perfect. Our meat's out. We're going to go ahead and cut him open and let's see what we've got here. Oh, that looks so good. Look at that. Yum. Perfectly cooked. Smells fantastic. You need to give this a try. You're absolutely going to love it. Well, please enjoy and thanks for stopping by. Oh, and one more thing. Great big shout out to Melissa. Good night.